would like to take this opportunity to thank the current and past members of this important committee for their great participation and support of this committee's work. It has been an honor, truly an honor, to be a member of the Finance Committee and to be its chair. With that out of the way, we will take a vote to allow virtual participation by members of our committee. Today we have board members Vince Cox and Richard Bennett, attending by Zoom. We have a physical quorum present here in the headquarters building. Pursuant to our rules and regulations, I will need a motion authorizing board members Cox and Bennett to participate via Zoom in light of the COVID-19 pandemic that continues to cause health concerns.
Josh Schulman, move approval.
Thank you.
Dan Saraki, second.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Okay, roll call vote. Josh Schulman.
Josh Schulman, yes.
Dan Saraki.
Dan Saraki, yes.
Vince Cox.
Vince Cox, yes.
Richard Bennett.
He doesn't want to be part of it.
All right, we'll skip Richard for a moment. And myself, Joe Barkley, vote yes. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, so call to order. So at this point, Julie, would you put up the slide for the public comment? Thank you very much. Okay. The public comment period is now. The public can make comments both in person or by phone by calling 1-415-655-0002. The meeting ID is 172-323-3684. Julie, are there any members of the public here in the lobby or on the phone who wish to speak?
Good morning. There are no members in the lobby that wish to speak. There are no members on the public comment line, and we had no public written comment prior to the meeting. And Clarissa will confirm if there has been any written public comment since the start of the meeting. Clarissa, can you confirm?
There are no written public comments.
Okay,
So that
thank you
concludes
very
public
much.
comment.
All right, our first action item, therefore, is to approve the October 21, 2020 minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes for the October 21st meeting?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Dan. Do I have a second?
Vince Cox will second that motion.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll go to a roll call vote.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just a quick question. It's
Yes.
procedural. We did, in the minutes, there are no public comments listed, but we did have some public comments, but they weren't related to any agenda items, so I wasn't sure if those needed to be reflected in the minutes.
At the,
Was it the October Finance Committee meeting, or am I confusing the board meeting?
at the board meeting, we had the comments
I
about.
apologize. I'm mixing up my meetings.
Okay, very good.
They were all on Zoom, they kind
Never
of. blend
mind, thank
together.
you.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Roll call vote then. Richard Bennett. Still not here. Vince Cox.
Vince Cox, yes.
Dan Saraki.
Dan Saraki, yes.
Josh Schulman.
Josh Schulman, yes.
And myself, Joe Barkley, votes yes. Thank you very much, everyone.
Chair Barkley,
Yes.
could you press your button one more time to turn Commissioner Shraki's mic on?
Which
There we go. It was blinking.
Okay, good.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay. So our first action item then is to go to the Security and Access Controls contact. Henry Lukasik and Al Burns, PSCA's Director of Maintenance, and Procurement Director Al Burns will present this contract to replace the outdated card key and facility surveillance camera systems here at PSTA. So go ahead, Henry and Al, please.
All right, good morning, members of the Finance Committee. So as Commissioner Barkley mentioned, this action item is to replace our current obsoleted 10-year-old interior and exterior camera surveillance systems along with our proximity key card door access systems. So both our shared drive facility and also our passenger terminals are equipped with cameras and key card access points of entry. Camera systems and secure door access point systems are a requirement of both state and federal agencies, and those agencies are listed in your agenda packet. So as I mentioned before, our systems, this facility was constructed in 2005, and those systems that we have here currently are in excess of 10 years old. Parts are obsoleted, and support is basically winding down, as most of these softwares and hard parts are just no longer supported. This project has been in the planning stages for approximately 2 years, and if you know anything about technology, it's ever evolving. It took 2 years because we really wanted to make sure that we did our due diligence and our research so that ultimately we picked the latest generation of camera and security access equipment that's going to last us for at least 5 to 10 years. And that we have basically the next generation of camera and surveillance equipment, which certainly has come a long way in the 10 years since our system has been installed. So after multitude of research, we basically have selected Broadcast System, which will install the Avigilon-based camera systems. Avigilon is part of the Motorola Solutions family. And just a couple words on both systems. The surveillance system is essentially and I'll use the term again, next generation of camera equipment. It incorporates automatic event detection, pattern-based analytic algorithms, and teach by example, self-learning capabilities. What does all that mean? Basically, nowadays, camera systems employ elements of artificial intelligence, computer-based systems that are able to not only record footage, but basically learn from that footage over time and be able to flag events that the system believes is out of the ordinary, such as unusual activity detection or unusual motion detection, especially after hours. It can do appearance searches, and for traffic coming in and out of our terminals in campus, license plate recognition. For our key card access systems, we're gonna take it to the next level, which is not just being able to gain access to a secured location such as our building, but can also be employed for personnel locators or occupancy trackers in rooms, identity reports, and especially intrusion event monitoring. So we feel that this is certainly going to take us into the next era of surveillance and monitoring technology. The project will incorporate 7 phases. Those are listed in your packet. I just want to make a mention for phase 2, instead of just passenger terminal, it should be passenger terminals, plural. All of our manned passenger terminals, Grand Central Station, Park Street, and Pinellas Park will also have their control systems upgraded with this project. The project is expected to take 20 weeks upon approval and award. And just real quickly before I turn it over to Director Burns to walk us through the procurement method, $640,000 represents the entire cost of the project. Break that down real quickly. The camera piece is approximately $280,000. That's the big portion of the project. The access control system is approximately $75,000, and the labor integration is $276,000. Now, so that's about $630,000. The ask is for $640,000, and that's because we're including a very small contingency of $9,300, or approximately 1.5%, in case there's anything that comes up. Part of that labor and integration number that I mentioned, this contract will include 5 years of warranty which includes parts, labor, maintenance, software licensing and support. So we're gonna be good for a while on that. We're gonna increase our number of cameras on campus from 75 to 120. And they are going to be upgraded to 4K resolution, approximately 12 megapixel, which if you've bought a TV lately, 4K, very crystal clear video footage. So that being said, let me turn it over to Mr. Burns, who will give us a briefing on the procurement method.
Thank you, Henry. Good morning, Mr. Chair, and other board members. This project is going to be funded by FTA grant funds. And per the 4220, which is the FTA circular that governs on how we spend FTA funds, the FTA allows recipients to use federal supply services, and we chose to use the GSA Schedule 84 to buy this. And the GS Schedule 84 is total solutions for law enforcement, security, facilities management, fire, and rescue. The pricing has been compared to catalog pricing from other sources and has been determined to be fair and reasonable. Additionally, even though it was purchased under the GSA schedule, we did do our own responsibility check, which could include SAMS, Florida DMS, and they were determined to have the capacity and therefore are eligible for award. As I stated previously, the fiscal impact on this is funded by FTA grant funds, and the recommendation is recommend approval of a one-time contract for the purchase and installation of security and access controls equipment from Broadcast Systems in an amount not to exceed $640,000. If there are any questions, Henry and I will be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, questions, anyone?
Can I go first?
Sure.
I only have one question, and the question is for Henry. You mentioned that there's gonna be a license plate identification. Can you explain that?
Yes, sir. So basically, when a vehicle enters or exits our yard, if there is a vehicle that we need to figure out who it belongs to, basically the camera is of such zoom quality that we're able to zoom in with clarity to read the license plate. That's all it's going to be used for. It's not going to be used for any type of law enforcement purposes or tracking of the vehicle. It's just if a vehicle comes in and we need to have a record of it, then we're able to zoom in on clarity for that. So
Perfect, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Good.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Schulman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Henry, I appreciate the, I don't know where to look in here, in this empty void here. I appreciate the comments about the 5-year warranty. My question is, when that warranty is up, are we beholden to a particular vendor for servicing? Do we have to go back to Broadcast Systems, or or is that going to be open to any provider at that time for updates and maintenance?
Okay, Commissioner Schulman, a little difficult to hear you, but I think I caught the gist of it. Are we locked into Broadcast Systems? So Broadcast Systems in this case is just the contractor that is going to be installing the equipment and markets the Avigilon system. So Avigilon is part of the Motorola solution family. So we're not specifically locked into Broadcast Systems. Now, one benefit of this Avigilon-based system is its open platform, which means that we're able to incorporate different models of cameras, different software systems, and it's all interchangeable. That's kind of what the industry's going to right now. And excellent question, which is we don't want to be locked into a particular vendor for 5, 10, or eternity. Hopefully this camera, well, I don't want to use the word hopefully. I know this camera system is going to last as long as technology remains constant in our current period of time. So when we do get past the 5-year marker, we will be able to go and look elsewhere if there is a better product, certainly if there's a better product to augment the current foundation of this system.
Thank you. No other questions?
Okay. Commissioner Cox, Commissioner Bennett, questions?
No, I have no questions, but it is difficult, as Henry said, to hear you folks that are board members there at the headquarters. So I don't know how that can be resolved. So I'm just bringing that up. Thank you. Thank you, Henry.
Okay, Commissioner Bennett, no questions? Is your audio on, Commissioner Bennett? Can you hear me? Okay. All right, I have a question,
Bennett?
and I don't know, this would go to Al or to Henry, but when we have a contract like this in a technology area, going out 5 years, who knows what's going to happen during that period of time. So if we have to go with some supplementary contracts, will these continue to be funded by the FTA fees, or will we have to go out for additional funding at that time?
Commissioner Barkley, if I understood the question, if the question is, if the support agreement is going out 5 years, how is that funded? The entire project, along with the 5 years of support and licensing, is funded by the FTA grant funds. So so the equipment, the installation, and the support agreement.
Right, but if something new comes down the pike over a 5-year period, that's bound to happen in technology areas. Will we have to go for an additional supplementary grant or whatever to pay for any things that we don't anticipate at this time?
My answer today is going to be no, not at this time. We believe that in our research and selection of this, that we've incorporated just about every facet that we need for our security monitoring and access system. We're gonna be good for a while. I wouldn't bring a project forgetting something that we needed to do. So we're very pleased with this system and its capabilities.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions, anyone? If not, do I have a motion to approve the contract for facility surveillance camera?
I'll move that we approve the contract.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a second. I believe the staff did a fantastic job on this, and I would like to second the motion.
All right, thank you. All right, roll call vote. Richard Bennett.
Yes.
Okay, Vince Cox.
Vince Cox, yes.
Dan Saraki.
Dan Saraki, yes.
Josh Schulman.
Josh Schulman, yes.
And myself, Joe Barkley, votes yes. Thank you. Passes unanimously. Good job on this, guys. This is a major contract. I appreciate it. It's important. Okay, next item on the agenda is for a contract for bus parts procurement. So Henry and Al, you seem to be our two-part team today, so go ahead with your presentation.
Okay, so for this item, my remarks are going to be brief because really this is Director Burns's crowning achievement here. And it directly impacts the maintenance department, and I just want to applaud his efforts for being able to bring this item before you today for approval. So real quickly, fleet maintenance, we have 210 heavy transit buses here, and as members of the committee know, we need parts to keep that fleet rolling. Something along the lines of well over 10,000 stock keeping units skew, and we rotate approximately $4 million worth of parts through our inventory stores warehouse each and every year. So with that, Mr. Burns is going to present a new method of securing parts, which really should streamline the request, the order placement, the shipping, and the delivery of all those parts. So without further ado, Mr. Burns, take it away, please.
Thank you, Henry. Julie, is it okay if I share my screen?
We see your screen right now. If you could put it in presentation mode.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Al Burns, Director of Procurement again. First off, I want to thank you. It's been an honor to serve under you and your leadership for the past 4 years. As Henry has said, this project is a very important project, and this project has been in the making for ever since I first got here. Debbie Leas, my boss, the Chief Financial Officer, she told me that this is something that she wanted to do, and she hasn't let me forget that, and I'm so fortunate to bring this to you this morning. However, I'm not bringing this to you by myself. I want to thank Henry and his staff, particularly Jody Sibley, the stores manager, and David Yoder, the contracting officer for this solicitation. Mr. Yoder put a lot of time and energy and effort in this solicitation. So this morning, I bring to you vendor managed inventory, or VMI. What is VMI? Effective, efficient, cost savings. VMI is letting someone else manage your inventory. The vendor is responsible for making sure that all the right items go to the right places at the right time. It's about streamlining your supply chain. As you know, PSTA is a leader in innovation and continuously improving. And that is not only on the transportation side, but that's in all aspects of the agency. Reducing costs, having higher visibility in your parts consumption, and reallocating human resources away from slow, manual, error-prone work to more quality-focused, value-added responsibilities. The current state of, currently, we are using this as a pilot project, and Henry and his staff, they selected 221 SKUs, and as Henry said, SKUs stands for stock keeping units, that PSTA wanted to be part of this initial program. In fiscal year 2019, we spent over $280,000 on these 221 parts. And currently in inventory sitting in our shelves right now, the value of those 220 parts is approximately $205,000. Additionally, procurement staff shops these 220 parts through over 20 vendors throughout the year. The goal of this program was to reduce inventory levels, reduce the number of vendors that we use, improve parts availability, streamline the procurement process for stock keeping parts, ensure the maintenance department receives quality parts. Henry and especially the Deputy Director, Joe Cheney, stressed to me that, Al, we will not jeopardize the quality of the parts that are coming in and that we're putting on the bus. And as you know, I work for Debbie Leas, so reduce overall parts cost was part of the goal. I am very, very pleased to show you the fruits of our labor this morning. In the area of reduced inventory levels, the parts are going to be maintained at the contractor's distribution centers. So the contractor that we have selected for this contract has various DCs or distribution centers all along the southeast part of the United States. Reduce the amount of vendors. We're going from 20, having to shop this around from 20 different vendors to one contract to one provider. Improve parts availability. Upon Henry's staff picking up the phone or sending an email to the contractor, the parts will be at our facility within 24 to 48 hours. The contractor has a dedicated space inside their DCs specifically to house these 221 SKUs, and they will maintain inventory levels for when we call, or what is known in supply chain as JIT, just-in-time inventory. Streamline the procurement process for stock parts. Like I said, the contractor has a dedicated team. We have a dedicated email address, a phone extension, and they have staff that is dedicated to support PSTA's needs. Earlier, I mentioned Deputy Director Joe Cheney requiring that we only receive OEM parts. The contractor will provide only OEM parts only. I will put a caveat to that. They have said that there are some like or equal parts that they feel are superior that have been tested at different transit agencies, i.e. MARTA, SEPTA, but they are not allowed to bring those parts and substitute those parts, even though they may be more cost effective, until the Deputy Director, Joseph Cheney, signs off on those parts and validates those parts. Lastly, reduce overall cost. And I am very, very pleased to tell you that this contract will result in 14% reduction in parts costs. I want to put clarity on what that 14% represents. That 14% represents those 221 parts. What we currently pay for those 221 parts, overall, we are going to get a 14% reduction in the cost or the price that we're currently paying for those parts. Once again, Mr. Chair, I am so excited and highly motivated this morning to bring this action item to you to approve a 2-year contract with 3 one-year options for vendor managed inventory with Neopark Transit LLC for a total contract amount not to exceed $1,383,000, and authorize the CEO to exercise the 3 one-year options. If there are any questions, myself or Henry would be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, any questions? Thank you, gentlemen. Any questions? Okay, Josh, go for it.
All right, thank you, Al. Can you hear us okay?
That's much better, Josh.
Okay, I'll speak up. The speaker in here is loud, so we hear ourselves very loudly. So I'm going to start from the back of your presentation and work forward. Starting with that 14% reduction in parts costs. What was the total? Do you have the total dollar amount of what the parts were costing? So we have a dollar amount for that savings. I know that you said that they were carrying about $200,000 worth of inventory.
Yes, sir. I'm looking that up right now, and staff is on standby. It should be able to give me the answer to that.
Should be able to do 14% over and above $1,383,000.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, and I can't pull the presentation up on my tablet here to whether those numbers were there. While you're looking that up, one other question I had was in an emergency situation. So we're dealing with just-in-time inventory. What kind of assurances do we have that that inventory will be available in case of whether it's a natural disaster or even things like, obviously when the coronavirus came forward, many manufacturers around the country found that their just-in-time inventory chains fell apart. How do we address that? Because we're still going to need to be operating.
Well, that's a good question. The contract does has force majeure in it, and those are for instances, natural disasters and things that the contractor can't predict. So when those type of occurrences happen, we're forced to kind of work with the contractor. However, the root part is that they are going to have, once this contract is approved, excuse me, I apologize. If this contract is approved, then the contractor, they will quickly mobilize, and they are going to put a minimum amount of inventory and dedicated spaces in their warehouse that is reserved for PSTA. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to reduce our inventory levels down, and then once we call and say, hey, we need this widget A, for example, they will ship us the number of widget A's, and then they will have to replenish their stock inside their distribution center. I think I heard the question, and I maybe I didn't hear the question correctly. I hope I answered it sufficiently.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. I think one of my concerns is that, say we have a hurricane that comes through, and so we can't access those distribution centers, but we still are trying to move our buses around, move people around, get people out of harm's way, use our buses as mobile generators, any number of reasons why we might be still operating but cut off from our inventory of supplies. I wasn't sure how that was handled, and I didn't know if operationally that's being looked at as if part of the contract they would allow us to take on hand more inventory with an expected natural disaster on the way to then return it back. I wasn't sure if that's part of the agreement or been considered.
So, and it's a good question. I think and let me put that in context, or the way that I understand it. If there is something that happens and the supplier is not able to provide us the parts, we have it written in the contract where we can go outside of this contract to procure the parts. And if the vendor, and also it's written in the contract, if the vendor cannot supply us the parts, that they will pay us the difference if we have to pay more than what they're contractually obligated for, with their the pricing that they are contractually obligated for. So there are safeguards in there that allows us to be able to procure the parts from other sources if they can't get the parts to us. And so if we're landlocked and we have to go down to Napa and buy the part or something like that, and Henry, I'm just using Napa as an example. If we go to Napa and buy the part, the contractor will pay us the difference in what we pay for that part from Napa.
So there's a protection in price, but not necessarily a protection in availability. Right, we're still reliant on.
We're able to shop the part somewhere else. I mean, wherever we're going to source the part from, we'll do our best to source the part. We're not locked into that vendor and say, hey, you can't shop it somewhere else.
Okay. An additional question, if I may. In the presentation, you said the funds are coming from operating funds. And what I was wondering, is this currently in the budget as an item in the operating funds, or how is it presented in the budget currently?
Yes, sir. It is a general ledger line inside the budget, and I believe in your packet we identify the actual GL number as you have requested. And if not, I have that available.
It just says, and all I have is the summary. It just says Maintenance Department Operating Funds, so I wasn't sure exactly where that was coming from. Oh, yeah. And were you able to, in this time, find how much money is going to those products, those SKUs?
Well,
Yes, sir. Let me, I have that here. Currently, those 221 parts are valued at $21,000.
So that's the savings?
That's at a quantity of one each.
Well, yeah, I'm confused by that. So
Can you turn on my mic?
Okay.
Brad would like his button pushed.
Okay.
Okay, there he is.
So Al, maybe a way to answer Commissioner Schulman's question is, what was the calculation that got to the 14% savings? Was that on the $21,000 for one of each kind of part, and then whatever is 14% less than that, like 19,000 that these parts will cost?
Yes, sir, exactly.
Okay, because your PowerPoint says that in 2019, in total, we bought $280,000 worth of these parts. So, but you're saying that's not how the 14. We're not going to save 14% of 280K necessarily.
So for example, a kingpin for the suspension part, the cost of one kingpin is $231. Okay, so I took the cost that we paid for each individual item, and that equals out to be $20,000. Now that doesn't mean that we just bought one of those items during the year. We bought multiple of those items, and so total with those 220 parts, the value equaled up to be $200 and something thousand. The base total for this contract, which is the first couple of years, is valued at $543,000. If that puts it in better context, and each year that increases annually. The amount increases annually. So I guess the best way for me to say it is that $200,000 we buy out of those 200 parts. Annually, we spend about $205,000 on those 200 parts. But it's not just buying one each. Sometimes Henry and his group, they have what is known as campaigns, where they have to fix a whole bunch of one item. A lot of these items that we have right here are brakes, brake drums, etc., which are routine. So I tried my best to quantify the savings that I brought before you today. I even went one step further, which I do every time before I project the savings to you. I had the numbers correct. The director of finance, Michael Hansen, review the numbers, and that's the best way for me to kind of summarize it. That 14% was the savings, and I can show you the detail behind that, Commissioner Schulman.
One final point. Al, thank you for that. It would be interesting in that this is a pilot project. If we could, at least over the next year or two, keep track of how that is performing from a cost perspective, because I realize, you don't know exactly what parts you're going to need at any given moment in time, but I'd like to see over time how the contract's performing so that we know whether this was a good way to go.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
I'm sorry, sir.
Al couldn't hear it.
Yeah.
I just said I'd like to make sure that we track the cost savings and over time, in that this is a pilot project, so that we can just see how the contract's performing and get a good read on whether, right now we're working off of assumptions, and that's all we have, which is fine. But I'd like to see how the performance works over time.
And you're absolutely right, sir. We are operating on assumptions, and we're taking, and I'm pretty confident in the assumptions. And this is a pilot program. Like Henry said, we have over 10,000 parts in our inventory, and we selected only a small sampling of that, which is 220 parts out of that. So we're going to monitor this, and before we jumped on the deep end and said, hey, let's do half of the inventory. This way, we wanted to make sure that we treated this as a pilot, to be able to look at the results of it, and be able to tweak it to either, and I hate to be cliches about it, but to continuously improve our processes. So we'll sit back, we'll do some lessons learned on how we can improve, and incorporate those lessons learned into hopefully a new solicitation.
Okay, yeah, good. Go ahead, Commissioner Shiraki, please.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right,
Kinda.
two things. Al, number one, thank you for being motivated. Second question is, where is Neo Parts located? Do they have a facility here in Pinellas County?
Great question, Commissioner Saraki. Neopart is corporate headquarters is in Pennsylvania. Neopart corporate headquarters is in Pennsylvania, but they have distribution centers throughout the Southeast. And let me take a look at their proposal. I know they have facilities in Florida, Georgia, and Tennessee, and that's where our parts are going to be housed at.
Okay, do you
But they
know
don't have
what-
they don't have a warehouse currently. They don't have a warehouse here in Pinellas County.
Do you know where it's located in the state of Florida? I'm just curious because of the transportation costs to get the parts here within 48 hours.
Yeah.
While my staff was looking that up, I just got a text from them. They have a DC center located in Riverview, Florida.
Perfect. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Bennett, go ahead. I see your hand up.
Yes, I have a question about downtime of a bus due to the lack of a repair part. Does that ever happen to us?
I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to defer to Henry to answer, but my question is, Henry, his staff would be standing on my desk virtually and in person if a bus goes down because of parts. And so we do our absolute best to make sure that doesn't happen. But I'll defer to him. I'll defer to the director of maintenance on that.
Commissioner Bennett, it does happen from time to time. It's rare. One of the benefits of our having an inventory warehouse on site is we have copious historical data on parts that are frequently used, not very used, and we're able to forecast min-max levels to reduce shortages for commonly used parts. So in the rarity that it does happen, for 210 transit buses, I mean, we're talking basically maybe one bus every once in a while, and it's for a specific type part that's not heavily used.
And of course, my follow-up question then is, when we go with this new contractor to provide us with parts, will that change in any way, and will somebody be keeping track of that and let us know if that occurs?
I do not project that that this will change. That we're still going to, Henry and his group, they're still going to have min and max levels that they're going to keep on their shelves. Additionally, this is just kind of put it in context. This is a part of a bigger picture. Every week, the procurement staff and Henry staff, we do what is called a stock reorder report, where I would say that on average, there are maybe about 100 parts that we put out for bid every week to keep the min and max levels for the entire fleet. Once again, out of the 10,000 parts that Henry keeps in the warehouse and procurement supports, we're only doing a small sampling of 221 of those parts.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and Commissioner Cox, you had a question too. I see your hand. By the way, I'm glad you brought your learned assistant. I saw him there for a second. Turn your mic on.
All right. I just have a comment to make, and I think this is a great initiative, number one. Number two, that we're requiring OEM parts, and that'll be part of this program, is also good because we know their durability and quality. So I think it's a good job by all of you, and I believe it's going to work great. Thank you.
Okay, My questions were already asked in some detail by Commissioner Siraki and Commissioner Bennett. Having been an aircraft maintenance officer during the war, one of the things we were constantly doing was cannibalizing from an aircraft to put on another aircraft that had to launch. And that causes damaged parts and puts another aircraft down. If we've got a bus up on a lift and it's got to wait 2 days to get a part, what's that do to our reliability, and what's it do to our ability to provide buses and transportation for our Pinellas County customers? That's a big issue that I have. Now, Henry partially answered that question by indicating that we know what parts are going to break, but you can get into a job and find out that you need a part that you didn't anticipate, and if we've got to wait 2 days for that part to show up, that's going to dramatically decrease our ability to provide the services that we're trying to provide. So I'm concerned that with not having these parts readily available in-house, in order to avoid having to have a bus sitting up on a lift for 2 days because we don't have some part that we didn't anticipate until we got into the job. How do we handle that?
So Commissioner Barkley, let me personally alleviate your fears and concerns. So we have 210 transit buses. We don't actually need all of those buses on the road at any given time. We're allowed to have 210 transit buses. The FTA allows us to have a 20% spare ratio based off our peak service requirements. So I can tell you that essentially equates to about 30 buses that are spares, and those spares either are good to go, or those buses that do require longer repairs, such as overhauls or brakes, or even waiting on a part, that we comfortably have enough transit buses available to meet the needs of our peak bus requirement each and every day. So that's the maintenance department's commitment to the operations division, that we always have 100% availability of the buses needed for service each and every day. So we manage buses down, whether it be for maintenance inspections or overhauls, parts, we're waiting on parts, so that we are comfortably within our spare ratio. Parts, let me reiterate what Director Burns was saying. Waiting on parts it's just a nature of the beast. One benefit is that shipping is very quick. It's not uncommon to get something overnighted from a parts manufacturer. We do not have parts runs. Maybe for an obsolete part or something that is not frequently used. So there's no shortage of parts right now in our inventory warehouse. We don't foresee, even with this contract, that there would be any type of waiting on parts. One thing about Neopart is Neopart not only services or would service PSTA, but it would also services the well over 300 other transit agencies across this country and North America. I guess to analogize, it is like the AutoZone of bus parts, right? And we all know how many AutoZones there are out there, just on US 19 alone. So they are very big. They have access to bus parts for all different makes and models out there. not just the Gilligs or that we operate here at PSTA. So I'm very confident that we're not going to see an interruption in parts distribution. How can I say this? Is because if I was unconfident, Al Burns wouldn't certainly be on this call today asking for your approval for a contract with Leopard. So I'll be the direct consumer, so to speak, and the direct benefiter as the maintenance department. So I'm very confident that we're not going to see an interruption in any parts supplying for our fleet, because that is critical. That was the critical component of this RFP process.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, you were just suggesting that Al and Henry don't follow the U.S. military in their inventory management system.
No, well, this isn't wartime, so we don't have a shortage of manufacturers either, so that's another issue, but yes. But I just want to make sure we're able to perform our function to the people of Pinellas County. So thank you very much. I feel much better. Thank you. All right, so if there are no other questions, then I'm going to ask for a motion to approve this contract.
I'll move that we continue with the contract with Neopart Transit LLC for bus parts.
Mr. Chair, I make a second, please.
Okay, been moved by Richard Bennett, second by Commissioner Saraki, and so I'll call for a roll call vote. Richard Bennett? Put your speaker on, Richard.
I think he's frozen.
Is he frozen? He always looks like that.
No, he's frozen.
Yeah. All right, we'll skip over, go to Vince Cox.
Vince Cox, yes.
All right, thank you. Dan Saraki?
Dan Saraki, yes.
Josh Schulman?
Josh Schulman, yes.
Okay, and myself, Joseph Barkley, I vote yes. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And thank you for all the work on this. This is a very complicated contract, and I really appreciate all your efforts in this regard.
Second that. Great job.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And once again, I just want to thank staff, both, special, Jody Sibley and David Yoder.
Okay, our next item is to approve the, make sure I'm not skipping okay, the next item is to approve the HR applicant tracking system, and Trish Collins and Al Burns are going to move us through this contract. Thank you.
Good morning, committee members. I'm Trish Collins, the Director of Human Resources, and I'm very glad to be talking with you today to ask for your approval to purchase a new applicant tracking system for use in the HR department. I'm going to share my screen while I talk with you briefly to give you an understanding of what an applicant tracking system is. All right, can everyone see my screen here?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, perfect. So an applicant tracking system is a really important part of our talent management function in human resources. Critically, it supports us in finding and hiring great employees in the organization. We do quite a brisk activity in hiring. We posted 58 positions last year, and we attracted more than 2,000 job applicants. Now, I'm going to guess that it's been a while since anyone in this room has been on a job search, but just to refresh your memory, here's how the process generally goes. An organization, PSTA, will post a job advertisement. Candidates will submit their resume. A recruiter and a hiring manager all look at the resumes and select the strongest ones for an interview. And then we conduct interviews, we select the best candidate, we make an offer, and we prepare for their start date. Now, back in the day, as recently as 2015, in fact, that was an entirely manual and paper-based process. And you can imagine getting as many as 2,000 job applicants per year, that creates quite a lot of paper. It's very cumbersome. It's difficult to analyze any kind of meaningful metrics about the process. It's very paper-based. So one, it's not environmentally friendly. And two, it really wouldn't be possible in today's era of virtual work. I'm thankful to say that we've had an applicant tracking system since 2015, and it's been a tremendous and powerful tool for us in hiring employees into PSTA. An applicant tracking system is a modern piece of software that most organizations use in order to manage the hiring process. It posts our jobs on our website. It allows candidates to submit an electronic application or resume. It includes tools to help our recruiters and our hiring managers review and evaluate candidates. Importantly, it helps us create a searchable candidate database. In the old days, a resume would come in, it would be reviewed, it would go in a paper file, and it would go in a filing cabinet, and it might not ever be looked at again. Today, we have a database of thousands of candidates that we can search, candidates who have applied over the last few years. And when we're searching for the right person for a position, we can proactively reach out to those candidates who may be a good match and encourage them to apply. Importantly, it also helps us create robust reporting so that we can analyze our process and look to make improvements so that we can attract and hire better candidates for PSTA's positions. So like I said, we have been using an applicant tracking system since 2015. It's been an invaluable tool for us, and we recently completed a procurement to review and select a new provider for this product. And I'd like to turn it over to Al to review the procurement.
Thank you, Trish. At this time, I'd like to share my screen. Is that good, Julie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for this procurement, good morning, Mr. Chair, Al Burns, Director of Procurement again. For this procurement, once again, we posted the procurement on our website and on DemandStar. We received four proposals total. However, 2 proposals were deemed to be non-responsive. The evaluation team reviewed the 2 proposals and ranked them in the following order. They ranked GNC number 1 and Southern Cloud Solutions as ranked number 2, as you can see in your board packet. Staff entered into negotiations with 2 objectives. 1, to understand the VAR relationship between the VAR and the prime. And what VAR stands for is value added reseller. Oftentimes, big providers such as Oracle, Microsoft, Cisco, the software package that's the engine that's driving the security system. They don't sell to companies directly. They have what is called value-added resellers or VARs. So we went into negotiations with 2 objectives: 1, to understand the VAR relationship and the prime relationship, and number 2, as usual, working for Debbie and Brad to achieve cost savings. The results of those cost savings, the results of those negotiations, we have a very good understanding of the value-added reseller relationship with GNC. We brought Julie Cagliostro, the IT director, into negotiations, and she was 100% satisfied of the solution. The solution is an Oracle solution, which is a more robust system than what the agency previously had. Additionally, from a cost savings perspective, we garnered a 5% savings with GNC, which is the prime, for just over $7,000, and 6% savings with Mythics, which is the Oracle VAR, which equal to be about $10,800 worth of savings that we receive. Also, as you know, I serve as the DBELO, which is the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Liaison Officer. Once it was decided that we were going to use FTA funds for the solicitation, I checked with counsel, and I have federal provisions I checked with General Counsel, BMO, Bryant Miller Olive, and had federal provisions added to the solicitation. That enabled us to have it FTA funded, and just as important, to obtain a DBE percentage on it. And GNC is a Florida certified DBE, and with them being a Florida certified DBE in their portion of the project, we have DBE participation of over 42% on this project. Lastly, once again, I bring before you the action to approve a 5-year contract with 5 one-year options for applicant tracking system with GNC Consulting Incorporated for a total contract amount not to exceed $320,000, and authorize the CEO to exercise the 5 one-year options. I do want to point out that, yes, I'm bringing before you a 10-year contract, a 5-year base with 5 one-year options. That is, and it has been vetted with BMO or General Counsel, that is permissible to have a contract of that length of time. And the number one reason for that is to give the HR department continuity for the future, and they don't have to worry about going out and having to replace a system within a short period of time or 5 years. So with that said, I'd like to, if there are any questions, Trish or I will be more than happy to answer them. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any questions from our remote folks? So I've been calling on the folks sitting next to me previously, so I'll ask if Richard or Vince have any questions. No, go ahead, Vince.
Actually, I don't, but thank you.
No, nothing? Okay. Go ahead, Josh.
Can you, there we go. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quick question. So it's a 10-year contract, so the $320,000 not to exceed amount, that's over the 10 years? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And I appreciate the explanation of the different vendors, because when reading through this, I thought there was like a name change that I wasn't sure of. So we're using GNC Consulting, and they are buying their items they're buying the Mythix software. So they're GNC's implementing that other software, so we're doing both within that one contract.
GNC is the prime. They will be doing the implementation of the system, which will initially include the uploading of the Mythix or the Oracle software. Mythix for the following years after implementation, Mythix will be the one that we will reach out to if we have any issues or anything like that. They have already started the process. Excuse me. Upon board approval, then Julie and the IT staff will be in direct communication not only with GNC but also the VAR and the Oracle implementation team.
Okay, so the Oracle team that's going to take over, is there a separate cost for that, or is that part of this contract?
That's a very good question. It's all kind of enveloped into one, and I'll tell you how it's broken out. Let me pull up the pricing schedule real quick. So the implementation is one portion, which is $140,190. And the licensing in the software is a different portion. And these are original prices that I'm giving you, Commissioner Shulman. These aren't the BAFO prices. The original price was for $140,190 for implementation and $84,780 for the Oracle solution. And option year, and that's for the 5-year base. So that 84,780, you can divide it. You can divide by 5. That will tell you what it will cost us annually. The first option year for the license and the first option year for the licensing is $17,004. The second year is $17,009. The third year is $18,008. And the fourth year is $19,800. And the last option year, which would be the 10th year, would be $20,800. And I'm just giving you whole numbers. I'm not giving you the actual number, but of course I can show you the the pricing schedule.
So, and I appreciate that. So is this a contract with GNC for $320,000, or is their contract $140, and Mythix is the remainder?
The way that is the contract is structured, GNC for all essence is the prime contractor.
Okay, so it's also going through them, but the servicing side of it and the implementation side are in this one contract with two vendors doing different parts.
Exactly, sir.
Okay, thank you. No additional questions.
You have a question?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I just want to say that Trish and Al, you did a great job on this, explaining this for me. I just wanted to just give you kudos. Thank you so much for that. Great job. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract with GNC Consulting, Inc. for a total amount not to exceed $320,000.
Okay,
Josh Schulman, I second.
second, all right.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all right, so now I'd like to ask a question here. 10 years is kind of a long time for a contract. The 1-year extensions I don't have an issue with, but 5 years is a long time for the initial part of this contract. Is that normal for this type of contract?
I would tell you, Mr. Chair, it is normal. And just to maybe address your concern, during that time, if there's different upgrades to the software package and things of that nature, that is included in our pricing that we have. And typically when you have these long-term contracts, when we structure, especially on the IT side, there are things that we call upgrades, patches, training. We make sure that all those type of provisions are in the solicitation/contract. So in short, let's say there's an upgrade or some new features, which there probably will be within that 5-year period. We are automatically at the same price. We're automatically entitled to those upgrades and those new features.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Oh.
Go ahead, please. You're on, I think. Sorry, I thought I put you on.
I'll just add to what Al said. Now that all this software is moving to the cloud, and not on PCs anymore, we are seeing these longer contracts because you're basically having to pay over the 10 years for the cloud, for the software that you don't even have, on site. So we are seeing longer contracts because of that, like this.
Okay. Second question is for Trish. We hired 58 people last year. That's a pretty good sized percentage of the total workforce. Are we having a lot of turnover, or are we growing?
I'm so sorry. I'm having a little bit of a difficult time hearing you. I heard you ask
Yeah,
about
I said we
the number
hired
of people
58
hired.
people last year. That seems like a lot. Are we having high turnover, or are we growing?
Right. Well, a little bit of both. I will say one thing that we keep a close eye on is retirements among our bus operators. We have greater than 25% of our bus operators who are eligible to retire today if they wanted to. I'm thankful to say that we don't have that many people decide to retire all at once, but we do have a steady stream of our workforce in our largest group of employees who do decide to retire each year. And that is where the majority of those hires come from.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so we have a motion from Josh Shulman and a second from Dan Saraki.
It was the other way around.
The other way around, sorry. Okay. In any case, let me go to a roll call vote for this. Richard Bennett, is he offline now? Okay. Vince Cox?
Vince Cox, yes.
Dan Saraki?
Dan Saraki, yes.
Josh Shulman?
Josh Schulman, yes.
And myself, Joe Barkley, votes yes. So we have unanimous consent on that motion. Thank you both very much. I know there's a tremendous amount of work that goes on to this, and we really do appreciate all you do. Okay.
Thank you so much.
The next item on our agenda is data center server replacement, and Julie and Al are going to take us through this. This is another technical issue that is very important to keep us up and running, and also to make sure that we are up to speed as far as technology is concerned. So please go ahead.
Good morning, Finance Committee and Chair. I'm Julie Cagliostro. I'm the Director of Information Technology, and I'm here today to present this action items. It's just simply for the routine replacement of our data center server. This occurs about every 5 to 7 years, and it's simply just to keep the equipment in a state of good repair. I'd say the most noteworthy characteristics about this server is that it allows us to move easily to the cloud and then back if the need arises. And it's very flexible. This can be easily upgraded with very little investment to make it last for at least 7 years. So, and it also will align with our sustainability goals in that it is energy efficient, and this is a very flexible and requires less hardware, therefore less waste when we retire the machine. So basically, that's it in a nutshell, and I'm going to turn it over to Al to speak to you about the procurement.
Mr. Chair, Al again this morning. We talked about different supply schedules. We have our regular solicitation method where we go out and shop. The security that Mr. Lucchese brought before you, we use the GSA schedule. And this time for this procurement, we used a NASPO contract. And NASPO stands for National Association of State Procurement Officials. And that is yet another contracting method that the FTA and the Florida statute allows us to utilize. Pricing was the NASPO catalog pricing. And we looked at other pricing, other catalog pricing, and we felt that we could get better pricing. And once again, working under Debbie Leah's leadership to get better pricing is just kind of hand in glove with the procurement department. In early November, we asked CDWG, and once again, the solution or the servers are Dell servers. However, they do not sell to us directly. And once again, we had to go out and we had to utilize a VAR or a value-added reseller. In this case, we utilize CDWG. We asked CDWG for their BAFA. In this one, I'm really excited about the savings that we had. The pricing that they offered on the NASPO contract was $396,000. We went back, I talked to CDWG, Julie and I asked Dell, when does their fiscal year end? and they told me that their fiscal year ends at the end of the calendar year. And I said, hey, this would be a nice influx or a nice sell for you guys at the end of the year to boost your sale numbers up. I also stressed to them that we're a municipality and we're needing to save as much money as possible. And lastly, that I work for Debbie Leas, and I had to show some type of savings. And they came back with pricing of $197,999, which equates to a savings of 49%. A responsibility check was done on CDWG. I've worked with CDWG ever since I came to Florida. Julie has established a relationship with CDWG as well. However, we did run a responsibility check on them. This procurement is funded by FTA funds and the capital budget. And once again, the recommendation is recommend approval of the purchase of the data center server replacement, including installation and testing from CDWG in an amount of $250,000. I just want to put a caveat on that $250,000. Yes, we did receive reduced pricing in their BAFO for $197,000. We are asking for $250,000. That is for contingency. And any additional networking needs or engineering, computer engineering needs that the IT department might need. So if there's any questions, Julia and I would be more than happy to answer them.
Okay. All right, questions? Vince, any questions? No? Okay. Dan?
Yeah, I have no question.
Oh, you got questions. Okay. Well, I knew you would have questions, but I was checking to make sure we didn't skip anybody. Okay, go ahead.
So just to be clear, I don't actually have a question. I just think with everything going on in the world and our use of technology, I think anything Julie wants, she gets. So I will make a motion to approve.
All right.
Make a second.
All right, thank you. I do have a question, and maybe this is not relevant, but when we have a piece of equipment like this that we actually own, as opposed to just getting a servicing arrangement, what do we have any trade-in value? Do we have any secondary marketplace to get rid of the piece of equipment we've been using and get some kind of, used value back? How does that work?
I can speak. Do you want to speak to that, Al, or would you like me to speak to it? Okay, so, this particular piece of equipment, actually, we've retained this server for 7 years. It's end of life, so it doesn't really have a trade-in value because the parts are not serviceable. Some of our other equipment, we do, does have a trade-in
Good boy,
value,
are you?
but we do actually,
Buddy, your daddy boy?
we actually donate it. Most of the equipment we donate to schools and people in need of equipment, because the value on the market to resell it or to give it to sell it to a third party is so low that it makes more important for us to donate it locally.
Okay, Al, go
I'd
ahead.
like to elaborate on that a little bit, Commissioner Barkley. According to the Florida statutes, we do donate that, but we donate the equipment in accordance with the Florida statutes. So it's not like we give it to our kids' schools or somebody that's going to gain any type of benefit for that donation. There is a process that we do, and I am, along with being the procurement director, I'm also responsible for disposal of all the agency assets.
Okay, and so then 2 further questions with regard to that. Thank you for the answer. One is, from an accounting standpoint, does that benefit us in any way? And the second is, and I know the answer, but I just wanted to put it on the record. Do we have a way to purge any of our data so that when we give the equipment away that there's nothing that could be traced back to any of our, secret or private information?
I'll answer the first part, and then as far as purging the data, I'll leave that to Julie. As far as the assets go, anytime we dispose of any assets, auction them off, donate them. I'm 100% confident in my statement that they have been fully depreciated.
Yeah.
So they do not have any value, and they have been fully depreciated. And once again, we follow the disposal procedures in accordance with the FTA disposal procedures and the Florida statute disposal procedures. As far as the getting rid of the data and stuff like that, I'll defer to Julie.
Yes, so we have a process for items that get disposed through Al, and thank you, Al, for that clarification. We, that are gonna go places that we're not aware of, any important data, we actually will destroy it, literally. A hard drive will be destroyed. We usually, we have many methods, but they're all physical, so it's physically destroyed. And that's pretty much items that are donated or, put onto auction. They are wiped clean and reformatted completely.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call vote. I'm going to assume that Richard is still offline. Vince Cox?
Vince Cox, yes.
Dan Saraki?
Dan Saraki, yes.
Josh Schulman?
Josh Schulman, yes.
And myself, Joe Barkley, votes yes. Thank you very much. Unanimous vote on that. Okay, at this time, I would like to note several reports are included in your Granicus packet and on the PSTA website for you to review. If you have any questions, or feel free to reach out to CEO Brad Miller or CFO Debbie Elias. I'm sure you'll get a good answer from those folks. Does any committee member have any other business to bring before the committee at this time? Yes, Commissioner Schulman.
Yes, I just wanted to thank Chair Barkley for his service on this committee and his leadership and his phone noises. We will miss those going forward. So we endeavor to carry on regardless.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would like to second that, Joe. Great job. Thank you for your leadership. You've done great. Thank you so
Great.
much.
Thank you very much.
I also would like to comment on you, Joe Barkley, who I've known for many years, and I've been on both sides on the board with you for the last 2 years, and as a bus rider and an advocate for transportation.
Yes, Richard.
I spoke and you've responded, so God bless you and Godspeed.
Thank you. Richard, you're back with us. Any comments or anything?
Oh, I'm back, but I don't know what you were talking about. I keep losing the signal.
Okay, well, that's okay, Richard. Don't worry. We're just finishing up, okay? So
If we're talking about what a great job you've done, then I agree with that.
Great, thank you. As I said at the beginning of the meeting, thanks to all the committee members and to all the PSCA staff. You've all done a fantastic job. It's a great honor to have been chair of this committee, and this meeting is adjourned.
Great job, Joe.
Thank you.
Are we going to appoint new officers
Next meeting.
next meeting? No.
Next
Well, I'd
meeting
like
in
to be
January.
considered, that's all. Maybe as the vice chairman, or if Josh wants to be the chairman,
Oh, okay.
I would support that.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank
the
you.
next meeting is when we will appoint a new officer. Yeah.
Okay, everyone, thank you for attending.
Thank you guys for attending.
Oh, hey, Vince, you went off the air before I could say thanks for your pooch for attending also.
So there are speakers in here, too, in the base of our microphone.
Vu, thank you very much.
Yeah, and then, well, I think it's these. I thought it was.